Kaya Wanju. Hello and welcome to today's Social Inclusion Forum. It's a real privilege to join you on the traditional lands of the Wadandi Noongar people in the lovely city of Bunbury. My name's Rob Gearson and I'll be your MC today. Now, before we kick things off formally, if you haven't already, could you just check that your mobile phones are on silent or switched off, please? So you're aware, we won't be having an intermission, so if you need to use the bathrooms, please just make your way at any time out the corridor and just down the side. And the same with the bar. The bar will be open for refreshments. Please avail yourself at any time throughout. It's really exciting to see so many people in the room with us, and if you're not aware, we'll also be live streaming tonight's proceedings to attendees from all across Australia. Our live stream's been managed by Jurgen at the back from Perth Video, and he's ably assisted by Josh, who's providing live captions online. And through the wonders of the internet, we're also beaming in our amazing Auslan interpreters, Nick and Luke. So that way nobody's going to miss out on some of the important messages you'll get to hear tonight. So a reminder as well for those that are joining us online, feel free to jump into the chat and ask a question to the team or just say hi. So, with that out of the way, it's time to start proceedings. And it's an absolute pleasure to invite Mrs. Sharon Cook to the stage to tonight's Social Inclusion Forum, and she's going to start proceedings with a welcome to country. Now, as Sharon makes her way up here, a quick background on her connection to the... Come in, Sharon, you're fine. Connection to the area. Sharon is a Wadandi elder who currently works with Catholic Education to develop and improve Aboriginal education outcomes. She works to provide stronger cultural competencies and increased Aboriginal student enrolments. Now, I was really personally very pleased to see on one of Sharon's public photos, she is a Freo Dockers supporter, which got a really big tick from me. So, thank you, Sharon, and please welcome to the stage.
Thank you, Rob. And I like that introduction. And I don't know where they get it from, but they got it. And it makes me feel real good in here. I just want to say there's a couple of things. As you know, my name is Sharon Cook. I live in Wadandi country. My family is from Cunningham country down south, Bridgetown, Cogen up that way. Williman country, Narrogin, Great Southern Run, and we also have connections in the Carnarvon Wadjuri country and Meekatharra up the middle, up the northern there on both our grandparents' sides. So we walk in lots of countries. I have 3 children and 4 grandchildren, 2 teenagers, one sitting right there who I'm very proud of, and 2 babies. So our family is quite a close-knit little family. And coming from a big family, Karen being my sister, and 8 of us in our family as well, with 1 brother. What I do when I do a welcome to country, I carry with me some emblems that represent our people. I don't know what that one is. I always carry the peppermint leaf trees, or not the tree, carry the peppermint leaves with me. If you take the peppermint and you squash it and do all these sorts of lovely things with it and smell your hand all day long, it's a cleansing plant. It clears your head in the morning. It's a healing plant for Aboriginal people and used it for many things traditionally and even today, and it's in our oils and our essences that we use today. So I carry that with me. I have the Cockatoo Feather, which represents one of our skin group clans throughout our Noongar country. And underneath is the kangaroo skin, the Yonga in Noongar language, and that represents our family, our Wallam family. It is my dad's token. So we take care of our kangaroos out there. We try not to hit them on the road, but they're very important to us and they provide for us as well. So that's part of our culture. And, of course, I carry my scarf with me, black, red and gold, which represents my Aboriginality in Australia. It's my country, and our country, and yours. I would really like to read you something, and I want you to just have a bit of a reflection on this. Quietly reflect yourself as I'm reading through it, and just think about the words that I'm actually reading to you today. So usually I would say close your eyes and listen to what I'm saying without being distracted by anything around you. So I'm just going to read it for you, and I want you to just reflect upon it. Today, we stand in footsteps millennial old. We pay our respect and acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land. A welcome and an acknowledgement of country says to the world, and more importantly ourselves, that we accept the fact that we are in a place that has a history far beyond its years. It says to our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander fellow Australians and all Australians that we are all in the future journey of our country together. So let us take you on a journey when you are walking through our country. Walk on through the land and the sea and time. Follow down our dreaming tracks. Listen carefully and look for the signs. You will feel them in your spirit as they weave into your soul. Songlines, our ancestral stories, are alive and strong and bold. They created for us the rivers, the trees, and all their girth, spreading out our storylines as they walked upon the earth. They are for us a legacy, our connection to our land. They are seen through our existence as we walk upon ochre and land. So listen very carefully now as you walk upon our land, and let it seep into your spirit as we take you by the hand. We'll lead you to our dreaming and sing you songs of old, as through dance and art recorded, our ancestral story is told. So for 65,000 years, it's been our heart, our spirit, our song, something for us to be proud of. It's our existence, and it's where we belong. We follow in the footsteps of our ancestral beings, and we follow along our song lines and our journey to our dreaming. Can I ask Karen to come up? Kaya ngalak jerapen nornok jenengin. Kaya ngalak doinch doinch you are cool. Dujirak no ngalak waranka. No nga bujak ngala yeriak. Kaya ngala jerapen no jinangin. Kaya ngala doinch you are cool. Dujirak no ngalak waranka. No nga bujak ngalak yeriak. Kaya, hello. Kelingan jerapan nonok jiningin. Today we are so pleased to see you all. Ngan mokin karajan ak neriga mort kura ye miller. I'd like to pay mine and our respects to our elders past, present and emerging, and acknowledge their contribution today and into the future. Ngalak yuokul, ngalak karajanak, we karaj nija wardandi nunga buja, nonok we ngan yakin we ninin. As we gather here today, let us understand and respect that this is the land of the Wardandi people's Noongar country that you and I are standing and sitting on. Ngan Jurup Wanju Nonok, Ngala Kwabadag Noongar country. It is my pleasure to welcome to you too, our beautiful Noongar country. Wanju, welcome, welcome, and I hope you have a fantastic night. Kaya.
Thank you, Sharon, for kindly welcoming us all and opening our Social Inclusion Forum today. On behalf of Inclusion Solutions, I respectfully acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land in which we're meeting, the Wadandi people of the Noongar Nation, and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. It was a heartfelt welcome for us all, and it was quite clear that sense of belonging came from your heart, and thank you for opening it for us all. It really means a lot. We'll kick things off now, and before we get into things, just want to acknowledge our sponsors and supporters today that make today possible. A special thank you to our friends at Lottery West, Evolve Wealth Management, and our partners, the City of Bunbury, that have helped us so much for tonight's event. We're soon going to hear from our 5 presenters who've got some really great stories to share with us. However, before we do, anyone who's attended our forums previously would know we aim to have a theme around each event, and tonight's going to be no different. Our theme for tonight is lighting the way forward. Now, if you've been on our social media, the question was asked, and I was asking myself, what does the term lighting the way forward mean, and what does it mean to me? We've certainly got the famous Bunbury Lighthouse right next door, but for me, that was a bit of a warning. It wasn't welcoming you in, it was pushing you away just in case. So for me, after having a think, I came to a view that lighting the way forward is about what we each may do for driving change, in forging ahead. For me, it's about making our tomorrow just a little bit better than today. Now, until 5 minutes ago, most of you wouldn't have known my name. So to break the ice, I thought I'd just share a little about me and what brings me here and what was my lighting the way forward moment. The reason I'm lucky enough to be in Bunbury, along with some of the Inclusion Solutions team, is I work as an inclusion consultant. My role, amongst other things, is to help clubs and communities to become more inclusive, welcoming places for everybody. That's all pretty straightforward so far, but it's fair to say this is not a career path I thought I'd be on 10 or 20 years ago. The path I previously came from was a little removed from where I am right now. I hail from the IT world, once working in banking and finance, and it's not an area really very much associated with social inclusion. But nonetheless, here I am today, Rob the IT guy, talking to you and focusing on social inclusion. It's fair to say it's pretty unusual. But as life does, sometimes it throws you a curveball. And this is mine. 13 years ago, my life changed when my son, at the time, he was 12 months old, he contracted meningitis. It was the scariest and most stressful period of my life. And still to this day, as you can probably tell, it's hard for me to think back on. We spent months, day and night, in hospital, ICU, and life and time stopped. And thankfully, my son survived that battle. But his own and our family's path had changed forever. Brad was left with various disabilities and challenges. And as any parent, I think it would be fair to say I was pretty devastated, and it took me years to get back to any sense of normality. But looking back now, that moment in time, 13 years ago, that's led me to be with you today. It's the moment when I realised and began to better understand and value what it meant to be included, and also, in some cases, excluded. That was my reason or realisation that I needed to step up and have a go to try and light the way forward. Not for myself, but for my son. And like any parent, I just wanted my kids to experience all the great things I enjoyed as a kid growing up. Be part of your neighbourhood, have mates, play sport, hang out, and simply just belong. So my action to try and light the way forward was to start a program at a little local footy club in Perth. And that was back in 2015. And the aim was to provide something so kids with a disability could play footy and be part of their local community club, just like everybody else aspires to be. That was 7 years ago. And in that very first year, we had 47 kids, all with various disabilities, come join in along with my son and 250 other club members. Not just belonging to a team or playing a sport, but belonging to a club. And importantly for both he and my family, belonging to our community. From that one action, one little club, there's now 14 clubs across Perth doing the same thing. And I'm really pleased to say that includes here in Bunbury, running a little program that we launched that we called Star Kick. It was just about an idea to make things a little bit better. From an ordinary guy that worked in IT with no degree, no experience, and in reality, no idea what he was doing, but just having a go, to try and make his community a bit more inclusive and to try and help his son along the way. So in my case, the light that helped guide me, my path forward and brings me here today, stemmed from that moment when my son fell ill. That changed my journey and is why I'm here. So as we begin with our first presenters, I'm going to ask everyone in the room for a little favour. My hope is, after listening to all of our great guest speakers, there'll be one thing that resonates with you. One thing that you can walk out of here tonight and commit to uphold in your own daily life, day-to-day life. It could be you're living that commitment already, and what you hear tonight just reinforces that for you. That would be great. Or maybe someone in this room will walk away committing to something new. That could be the next person to grab the torch and to lead us on a new path. Who knows? The next person to light the way forward could be sitting right next to you. Or it could be you. So with that, you know a little about me. Now it gives me great pleasure to introduce the first of our speakers for today's forum. These two young men have the longest of relationships. Not only are they brothers, they're identical twins. And for both, their journey in life has been influenced through sport. As young boys, they grew up together playing junior football, but as they got older, their sporting interests somewhat diverged. One, and he may not like me saying this, he moved to the dark side and followed a path from playing the game to umpiring the game. The other, his focus switched from the footy field to the pool to try his hand at swimming. And the rest, as they say, is history. Please welcome Adam and Ben Popham to the stage. As the boys make their way up, a quick background on each. Adam, I'm sure will tell you, or she'll let everyone know, he's the older and big brother to Ben, and hence deserves to be introduced first. Adam loves his sport, and after playing Aussie rules footy for 10 years, he switched his allegiances, as mentioned, to take up umpiring, where he continues to this day as a coach and mentor for junior umpires coming through. He's studying management and human resources at Curtin, and Adam also works part-time with us at Inclusion Solutions, and he's passionate about creating welcoming and inclusive environments that enable people to maximise their opportunities. And joining Adam, we have the youngest of the Popham twins, Australian Paralympic swimmer and 2021 Tokyo dual gold medalist, Ben. When Ben's not swimming for gold, he's studying for a Bachelor of Public Relations and Journalism at Curtin Uni. And Ben has cerebral palsy and often speaks on the importance for organisations and sporting clubs to become more inclusive of those from diverse backgrounds. And notwithstanding his recent success in the pool, Ben's certainly no stranger to the cameras and the big stage. In 2011, Ben was chosen as the Little Telethon star, And whilst the following comment wasn't listed within Ben's bio, on his nomination form from that time, it described him as a fun-loving boy with a cheeky sense of humour and a wonderful role model for people living with a disability. I think that sums it up perfectly. Welcome, Adam and Ben.
Thanks for that, Rob. Just to re-emphasise, umpires are a valued part of the football community, so I won't take any slander for much longer. Something else to touch on before I go on, I think it's really important to reflect on the incredible amount of wisdom that I would have gained in the 4 minutes before Ben was born. He will and will never, ever experience those 4 minutes, but it's made me ever the wiser. I'm going to quickly share with all of you 3 stories from our childhood, which continue to impact both of us, before sharing a little bit about where my journey's taken me. So to start off with, my earliest memory that I can remember, much to my mum's dismay, was Ben and I grew up in England. And every Thursday, we were sent to this horrible daycare place called Folly Farm, or I've forgotten the name because it was erased from my memory. But we were on this little soccer field. I was on one end, Ben was on the other, and some kid decided that he was going to push Ben over. So I, with both my arms pumping as fast as my little arms would, I went back and pushed him back over and gave him a quick stare down. And Ben and I rushed off and went to build some Legos or whatever we did, waiting for our parents' wrath. But what this really set up was the foundation for Ben and I's togetherness, I suppose. And 21 years later, that's very much continued. The second little story was in year 2, when we were 8 or 9 or however old we were, Ben had an operation, which I'm sure he'll touch on, to help with his cerebral palsy. And our grandma flew over from England, we were in Australia at this stage, to help with the recovery phase. Ben was using a wheelchair for 2 or 3 months, from my recollection, and Ben and I very much used his disability, amongst with other things like growth, achievement, for a bit of fun and mischief. So Ben and I discovered very early on that if you pushed the wheelchair down a hill, it would go very fast. Again, we were cautioned off this quite early on, but our grandma was taking us to the first day back to school or something like that. And our grandma was a little bit bewildered. She didn't know the primary school grounds very well. So when our grandma was taking stock, reassessing where all the classrooms were, I quickly grabbed a wheelchair, found the nearest hill, started pushing Ben down. Ben was yelling, or I hope he was screaming in joy. And before our grandma knew it or heard the noise, Ben was already 34 metres away. And we just look for those type of opportunities to use, I guess, Ben's disability for more than just poor Ben. His disability was just a part of him, and it gave him unique opportunities, such as being pushed down a hill in a wheelchair, as well as unique challenges, the same as everyone else. And the last memory that I will share from our childhood was our local footy club. So up here in the top left corner, we have us and our footy team. We wore our blue jerseys very proudly, and we played together in the same footy team up until about year 7 in high school. And I distinctly remember one football coach that we had. His name was Hawkeye. He supported Collingwood, and normally I don't associate myself with Collingwood supporters, but Hawkeye was the one exception. And Hawkeye, what he said to both Ben and myself really early on really always stood out to me. And Ben is what I would like to call a coach's dream. He handled really well, he shepherded, he tackled really well, but kicking wasn't really in his skill set. But everyone, again, has their own unique skill sets, and Hawkeye noticed this. And Hawkeye brought Ben in for a conversation one day, and he said, "Hey, Ben, there's this guy in the AFL at the moment. He's ridiculously good at handballs. He creates an absolute nuisance in the forward pocket. Maybe model your game on this guy." And I think the impact for both Ben and myself was that Hawkeye didn't say some guy that was playing in local footy. He said, "Here's a role model in the AFL. You could achieve the AFL if you want, regardless of your skill set. Aim for that benchmark." And I'm sure, as you can tell throughout Ben's story, that hunger for achievement and not setting or not letting yourself fail any shorter than that really stood through. So after those childhood stories, I was obviously very privileged throughout high school to have the perspective of disability in my life. I think being aware of disability and understanding some of the challenges that it faces always changes your perspective on the world a little bit, but for significantly better. And being my 18-year-old self, I thought I knew a lot about disability, right? Like I'd grown up with my twin, who I was ridiculously close with for 18 years of my life. What more would there be for me to learn? And when I joined Inclusion Solutions a bit over 2 years ago, I learned that there was a significant more amount to learn about disability, but not just disability, thousands of other communities as well. There's so much to learn. And I thought to myself, if I've got this much to learn at the age of 18, I'm sure everyone else at the age of 18, as soon as they leave high school, they're probably going to have to learn these lessons too. So what we started to do with Inclusion Solutions was we got a grant from the Department of Communities and we started to do a bit of work in schools. Really just accelerating that conversation or that realisation that it's not just my perspective or it's not just me that I need to think about. And we started having these conversations in schools and really just cultivated a safe space for everyone to have these conversations and to have these learning moments. Because I think at the moment the real danger is that kids are so worried about saying the wrong thing that they're never going to have those educational conversations where maybe they do say something wrong. And then we have a conversation or we talk them through about maybe why that was the wrong thing, but maybe they haven't said that intentionally, but they don't know any better. And the real problem is that they're never going to have those awkward conversations because they're too scared to say the wrong thing, and so they'll never learn. And so we're really pushing to have those conversations in that safe space and to really light the way forward. So I have great pleasure in introducing my twin brother, Ben.
Turn your mic off. All right, we're all good. Can someone give me a wave as well when we've gone over time? Otherwise I'll waffle forever. But, I'm Ben, everyone. Nice to meet you all. Look, most of my talk is surrounded around my personal experience, and I think that's a really important thing to distinguish because disability is a very individual thing. I talk about what worked for me and what didn't, but obviously I've got off pretty easy. So I've got quite a mild case of cerebral palsy, and so what works for me might not work for others. So I just want to stress that at the start. But we obviously were born in England, and it was hard for me, and it became obvious, very quickly that something wasn't quite right. Adam was sort of walking at the usual age, and here I was, sort of 17, 18 months, and still didn't walk. And so mum and dad sort of knew something was up, and so I got diagnosed with cerebral palsy when I was 16 months, I think it was. And so I had it since birth, but that was when the official diagnosis came in. And I remember mum and dad talking. This was probably when we were 4 or 5, and mum and dad were talking to the physio at the time, the English physio, and they mentioned that they were thinking about moving to Australia. And the physio said, "What are you doing still here?" It's a dream, place to grow up in for a kid with a disability and without a disability, but especially for the disability because of a couple of things. There's so much space in Australia. There's so many green parks. There's so many green areas you can mess around in that would be incredible for my muscle tightness that comes with cerebral palsy. And secondly, and this is probably the most important part that I've found, is the culture in Australia surrounding sport is just unlike anything else. There is so much respect given to sporting heroes and people that are good with a ball, basically, that it's incredible. And so we moved over here, and I really felt the benefits of Australia. And growing up, especially in primary school, I had a really hard time. And that wasn't down to my school or my teachers or even my friends. Sometimes we had a couple nasty run-ins, but it was how I viewed myself. And that was that disability was a negative tag for me very early on, probably till about year 5. But all I would do at school, I'd wake up and I'd compare myself to what I couldn't do and get really frustrated and really angry. And then I'd go home and I'd see everyone else kick footy after school or on the weekends, and I'd go, can't do that. That sucks. And so early on, I was really quite a angry and upset child, I guess, because I knew what I wanted to do and I couldn't do it. But having said that, I think it was really important, and something that Adam gave me quite a lot of and something I talk about all the time, is reference points. Now, when we were growing up, and obviously Adam being an able-bodied child, he gave me that constant reference point to where I needed to be, to make sure that I wasn't falling behind, to make sure that I wasn't, unable to integrate into mainstream society when I needed to. And I think that's one thing that we run the risk of here, is that disability is so difficult to traverse that teachers and carers and who have you don't know how to push their kid well enough, really, without pushing too far. And I think it's really important to try and challenge people with disabilities, because otherwise you get in this nasty cycle where you haven't challenged them, they don't really know what to do, and they're so far away from mainstream integration that they have no clue how to get there. And so you sort of sit there and go, I feel useless, I don't have the skills required, and so you get in this really bad spot where it's really hard to get out of. So that's what Adam was really good at, and all my friends, give me reference points. If Adam could do this, I needed to be able to do this. It didn't have to be at the same time, but within the next 3 months almost, I had to do it. So that was really, really good for me. But the mindset shift that I sort of had and I sort of needed was telethon. And telethon was the first time that my disability was viewed as a good thing. Now, we've got photos up here of little me, and I'm sort of loving the microphone and that sort of thing. And telethon was really, really good, because telethon was the first time that my disability was viewed in a positive light. I remember the ad campaigns was all about I can, and the general theme of the weekend was I can. And all these celebrities came up to me and was asking about my disability and how that affected me, and they were genuinely interested. And I remember telling them, and they were fascinating, and they were saying, you must be so strong, and all the other stuff. But the whole event was so positive about disability that, it took an effect on me. And it wasn't just because I was meeting celebrities and all that cool stuff, but it was that mindset shift that I really needed. I had this negative view of disability and of myself, and that tag of disability I wanted to fit in so badly. And after telethon, I sort of viewed myself as unique, and that being a good thing, right? So, we all have our strengths and weaknesses, but here I am. Maybe exaggerated weaknesses in some areas, but I still have my strengths. And that view, I think, is important for every child with a disability to sort of get to realise that they are valued and they are unique, yes, but it's possible to do what you dream of, right? And so that telethon was that thing for me, and it may be different for everyone else, but that has to happen. It really does. Otherwise, you get in this really nasty spot where, you don't like what you're doing, and it just gets terrible. But telethon was the thing for me. Now, we go into high school, and against my physio's wishes, I take off my AFO splints that help me walk. They're these big plastic things, and they had hinges at the back. And whenever I walked, they clicked. And I hated that because everyone knew I was coming. It was a distinguishing, it's terrible. It was a distinguishing factor, and it was just terrible. But, the reason why I picked up swimming to start with was obviously a physio recommendation. And they said, horseback riding or swimming were the two things. And the horseback riding is because the way you sit on a horse, it's really good for your legs. But obviously I chose swimming. I'm not much of a horse rider. Never, rode a horse, and I'm scared to death of him. So my destiny was chosen, one could say. But it was really good for me. I enjoyed swimming at the start because I never wanted to do my physio exercises. And I remember coming in one week, and this was only when I was going sort of 2-3 times a week in the pool. And I remember one week, I got down and we were doing our usual exercises and stretches. And I hadn't stretched again for this week. And the physio goes, wow, that's incredible. Like, what have you done? Like, you're so good. Your range of motion is so much bigger. And obviously I just swum, but I didn't tell her that. I sort of said, oh yeah, I've been really doing my stretches. How good's that? And so every week I come into the physio, and they go, wow, Ben, you're like the model student. You rock. And every time I come out, Mum goes, like, you got to stop this. Like, you got to stop. You're not stretching. You're not going to get away with it. But that was the whole reason why I swam to start with. It's because I didn't have to stretch. But this is another thing that I'm really passionate about. So first thing, reference points. You've got to find your reference points. And obviously I'm talking about, disability, but it can apply to anything really. Reference points. Second thing is you have to find something, for me, outside of school, or it could be outside of work, art, sport, that you're good at or you enjoy. And the confidence that you gain from that activity will bleed into every area of your life. So for me, it was swimming. And so I used to come into conversations when I was sort of year 6, year 7, and I felt like I constantly had to prove myself in every conversation as to sort of why I was in that conversation. And slowly, and I found that, that reason was because I was a swimmer. I sort of garnered respect, if you wanted to, because I was good at sport, like I mentioned, and Australia really values that. And my friends really valued that. So year 7, year 8, we started to really pick up, and it's sort of on the board here. We've got me and my various medals and teams and that sort of stuff. But it really started to pick up. And as my swimming started to get better, my confidence grew. And my school grades were picking up. My enjoyment of life was picking up. But it all started from knowing that I was good at something first and that I was enjoying it. And it sort of bled right through. So I really cannot stress, if people are ever in a hole and they're really struggling, just get them to find something they're good at or something they enjoy, be part of their community, and it will do wonders for themselves. It will do wonders for sort of everyone else around them, because you can really see them light up. And so as I was going through high school, we're on an upwards trajectory with swimming. And so I'm enjoying my school more, as I mentioned. I'm doing well. I'm enjoying my friends, and my swimming is really picking up. Now, my first senior Australian team was year 12, which was a disaster in some ways, but it was also pretty fun. It was a disaster because I had to fit exams around it. But it was a really good experience because the Australian Paralympic team, or the Australian swim team, is so incredible. And the reason why it is because you're at the pinnacle of para understanding, of understanding people with a disability. And so you're not constantly having to explain your flaws or your weaknesses. It's just this one big group of understanding, and we all play to each other's strengths. And it's a beautiful thing to be a part of. So we're sort of upwards, and it's a crazy journey. So 2018, we're in Para Pampac, so not all countries, just the Pan Pacific ones. And so I win gold there. First senior team, gold in 100 freestyle. Going, wow, I'm really good. And so I'm loving life. We go 2019. World Championships. So we're getting serious now. We're in the old 2012 London Olympic pool. Silver, and I miss it by a fingernail. And that was really good for me, by the way, because it knocked me down a pedal. I go, oh, jeez. I barely got silver. And I was like, oh, no. We probably need to reevaluate ourselves here. But I was still loving my swimming, and I was still loving my sport. So we go again with a lot more training and a bit more determination. And so 2020, February, I posted the fastest time in the world at the time. And it was the fastest time of the year because everything shut down. But we'll claim it. But the COVID hits, right? And so we had to reevaluate again and settle back down and, change goals, change environments. But I was still loving my swimming, and I still knew I was good at it. So the confidence of training so hard, it gets really easy to perform when you back yourself, when you're confident. And so the games happen. I qualify in July. It is unbelievable. It was just so good to qualify, and the feeling was incredible. But then we boot camped from July 15th, and we got back in the end September 23rd. So a long time. And usually it's only 4 or 5 weeks. So we really had to bond. And this is what I mean by the team. I didn't want to leave by the end of it because everyone had such a good understanding of what we were there to do, how we operated in the team. The work culture, if you like, was so seamless. There was no jarring. We didn't have to explain ourselves. It was a thing of beauty. So we get to Tokyo after a big old staging camp, and I love hard work. So when we're going up and down the pool, I'm looking around. People are calling crazy times, like world-beating times, and I'm looking around and I'm going, this is nuts. Everyone in the pool is like panting. There's a couple guys leaning over bins, like, looking worse for wear. And it was great. So we get to Tokyo. I'm trying to, stay focused, stay relaxed, but also I want the time to sort of go a bit quicker now. But we get to marshalling on the day of the race. And, I think it's just one of those things where you just sort of have to catch yourself. And in the heats, I swam the fastest for the heats. And, I got there and I sat down for the final in the marshalling room, probably 10 minutes before or 15 minutes before I finally raced. And I was thinking about how many sessions I've done, I trained 10 sessions in the pool, 2 in the gym and a yoga. And I've done that since I was maybe 12. So 24 hours a week maybe, since I was 12. And we sort of get a week off a year. And I sat down and I looked at my main competitor and he looked away straight away. I cannot tell you how good that felt. And I just sat in it. I looked at him a bit longer. Didn't look back. 5 minutes later, I was on to my next song in my playlist. He looked over one more time, looked straight back because I did not take my eyes off him. And I just went, oh yeah, I got this. And it's crazy. And so, my name's called. It's crazy. And I get really, really nervous again. I think I'm going to get DQ'd because you can't wobble on the blocks. So I get on the blocks. And as soon as I dive in the water, I'm not nervous anymore. And because I'd replicated it so many times in training that it just went by the book. I was, fifth of the first turn and won by the end. And it was so crazy. Such an incredible finish to a journey that was so hard at times. And the greatest thing is the recognition almost and the enjoyment that everyone got from the Paralympics was so special. And it always is special. But the leaps and bounds that the Paralympic movement has had in recent times has just been incredible. I've got so many people coming up to me and other team members, and they say, look, you've impacted me so greatly, you've inspired me, which is an honour in itself, but you sort of see this impact in this wave of the effect that you have on others, and it just gets you really excited for the future. And through speaking at different things and different corporate things that are really passionate about making inclusive workplaces and making sure they try and understand disability and all the various different things is really exciting. And so I'm just in a really good space right now where I can just sort of talk about myself and big myself up a little bit and, try and help people and talk about my experiences and my obstacles. So, I'm really loving life and I'm happy you come here today and I'm looking forward to the other speakers and thanks for listening.
Thanks, Adam and Ben. That was a good laugh to look back on, and also really inspiring. Some of the things you've been through together. What I took probably is the biggest thing I took out of both of that is first and foremost, you guys are brothers, and you care deeply for each other, and that just shines through. For Ben, the impact that you got out of the positive experience celebrating disability. And tomorrow is International Day of Disability. We should celebrate it every day because it made Ben proud of who he is, and we should all feel proud of who we are because we're all important. And Ben's message to find your passion, and I think that goes for every single person. It doesn't matter who you are. Find your passion and grab it and follow it, and the positive impact that has on all facets of your life. Adam, I do want to say, I do respect umpires. I think they're very, very important as well. But both of you should be very, very proud of the impact you are having. Ben obviously speaking, but Adam also in the work you're doing in community and making a difference. You're both leading the way to make lives better for people with a disability. So well done to both of you, and thank you for joining us today. Okay, it gives me a great pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Karen Jetta. As Karen makes her way up. Karen was born in Harvey on Binjara Budja. Karen is a strong local Noongar woman and married with 3 children and 2 adorable grandchildren. Karen's the current chair of Yaku Danju Events and Catholic Education Aboriginal Advisory Committee. Karen's worked on country since leaving school in the fields of community, education, employment, relationship education, and currently student success and engagement with ECU. Karen has a love of family, culture, community and sports. Her difference is creating a change in someone else's life to be welcoming, accepting and togetherness. Welcome, Karen.
Thanks, Rob. Can I go last? They're very inspiring. I don't know whether... Well, Adam, I'm an umpire too. I umpire netball. I had the opportunity to travel this country, so well done, mate. And, yeah, I'm a Jetta, so I'm a football fan at that. Sorry, not Dockers. But, yeah, football runs through our bones, always has, always will be. And, yeah, I'm sitting on the side telling my husband, behave, they're umpires, they're out there to do a job, respect them. So, love your job, mate. Acceptance and inclusion. Thank you for the opportunity of coming, Laura and their team, for being able to be here and share and speak tonight. It's a great opportunity and it's a privilege to be able to come and share our story and how we do things in our way, in our culture, and who, is important in our journey as far as my role in what I've been doing in my community. I left school at year 10 and I was told or never encouraged to keep going on to year 12. And so I went straight to work, or TAFE, and then straight to work. So I've been working on community since I left school from 16 years old. And I don't need to introduce where I come from because my sister already done that. And in saying that, I would like to acknowledge her as my elder in the room tonight, and elders past, present and future, and on Wadandi country as well in my acknowledgement. So thank you. Yeah. I am the chairperson of Yakadanju Events, which is one of the biggest things why I've been called tonight, I think that's why. But that's been a real pleasure for us in organising. It's a networking committee. There's about 40 odd people who are a part of this committee. It'd be great if they all came to every meeting. But as we know, it's who comes and who presents themselves at each meeting is special within themselves, and they're accepted and they're valued for what they bring as far as their gifts and their talents, and they're very much used in such a way. One of the things that we've been taught is to, and my father's quote was to look, listen and learn. So part of that is having a look around who presents themselves at each table, getting to know who they are, listening to their story and their special talents that they bring to our committee, and then learning from them as well, because we have not been able to be educated. And my dad was one of those. My sister was hidden. And if you know history, and even if you don't, then we have been a marginalised people, a race within Australia ourselves. And that's a catalyst for me doing what I do. No longer do I sit on the outsides. No longer do my family. So I'm very proud of my family. We sit on the outside and watch. We make sure that we come into that circle, whatever that circle is. And it's because of, our history. We belong. And it doesn't matter where. So I wanted to share a little story and a little activity that I have to do every morning before I leave my home. And it's about my appearance. And it's about my acceptance into where I leave my door and when I go out to. And it's about me being able to be accepted by society once I'm out in that door and in that community space. So I have to look into my mirror, which I don't like doing pretty much, unless I've got a face on like this. And it's a ritual every morning, I suppose, because of who I am. And as a young Aboriginal woman, still young, 54 years old, still young, and knowing that I've got to prepare my mind, my heart and my appearance to be able to go out and be who I am. Not who you want me to be, but who I am and who I want to be as I leave my home to go to work, pineapple, or whatever that space will be. So, and I'm very proud. I'm very proud of my culture and my identity and who I am. And that's the biggest thing that I've taken away from not only our parents but my elder siblings, and watching them and learning from them. Part of that is a big role in the community in working, with Edith Cowan University and as student success and engagement. And it's only been there this year in this role. But the engagement, I think, is the one that won me the position, and my connection to my community. And so it's a lovely work up there, and it's about, bringing Aboriginal people up on campus and saying, yes, you can. Uni is for you, young and old, And so it's great to be able to go out amongst the community and encourage our young ones, especially. Last night I only attended Newton Moore's awards nights, and just telling them and reminding them that, hey, uni is for you. Come up and find me and just have a yarn. And that's where we start. And then I also stand here today, even though I went to Year 10, and I still have to fathom this, that I'm actually a CEO of my own company. And I've never ever put it, or no one has put it, or myself has put it in that way until I was introduced at NAIDOC Assembly only 3 weeks ago as a CEO, and I thought, gee, that's pretty cool. So I went home and I told my mum, I went like this, But it's about accepting those roles, It's about accepting that you are the next leader. My sister sits here as the next generation of elders. That's why she does what she does. And I think I'm, quite a fair way from that. But after, when you sit down and you realise people coming up and asking you to do things like this, things in the prison, which I also do, and teaching Noongar language, learning. Dad said, look, listen and learn, and then take those things and implement them into whatever space you walk in. So we're very privileged to be able to do that. And I go back to Yakadanju and that committee. It's not an Aboriginal committee. And we are very, very proud of that. It is a community organised voluntary committee. And we have 50% of non-Aboriginal people working with us on that committee. And our role there is to organise our events, whether it be Reconciliation Week, NAIDOC Week, and any other events that our community agencies, services and corporations we promote. So if you have a look on our Facebook page, join us and put your hand up. If you want to come and be a part of that committee, it's open. And I think that's the welcoming and the acceptance that I really wanted to touch on tonight. I'm watching my Nana for my time here. I'm like you. Then I keep talking and I'll just keep going, my friend. So, I just want to show you a video. Just click, Lauren. Oh, hello, Renee. Go back. I said technically and me, we don't work together. But one of the biggest things that we've done and has been doing over the past 5-6 years now, and it's been revived, thankful. And I'm really proud, Sharon, that you're sitting here tonight, because Sharon was a catalyst of reviving the Reconciliation Bridge Walk. In 2000 was the last time that we actually had a bridge walk before Yakadanju commenced and started working together. And so 2016, we had a yarn with our committee and we said, what do we want to do? And you know what? Reconciliation should not start with me. That's all right, I'll keep talking. That's what I like doing. Reconciliation starts with all of us. And that's the journey that we're on, and that's my passion. And that's why I put that in my introduction, because that's absolutely the best thing that I think we need to encourage and accept. And we all live on this nation. We work together, we walk together, we play sports together, we umpire together. I love that. That's awesome. And, we can't do things separately anymore. We cannot do things separately anymore. We have to come together, all of us. Work, enjoy one another's company, share what we know, look what we're doing, listen to one another and learn one another's culture, no matter what that is. And that's the key to reconciliation, and that is my passion. And that's why we've gratefully, through our committee, organised or commenced this walk. When this video shows, it looks really, really good. We started off with 300 people, just about, walking over the bridge in 2017. This year, we did it this year, didn't we? Supposed to have 500 people, according to COVID. We did, didn't we, Steve? We had 500 people come across the bridge. Even though the tail, we was at the Bricknell Shell, so it starts off at Bunbury. Got it? All right, we'll watch it. Then I'll keep talking.
Proud to be a part of this organisation, organising this. It's just got better today. It's the best I've seen today. And the people who just want to be involved, it's so exciting. And there's lots to look forward to. So if we walk together, share together and talk together.
It's an important event because literally it stops people in their tracks, like literally in a car, and they have to look and go, what's that? What are they doing that for? Then they say, look, there's a reconciliation walk happening, if anyone's free to come down and support, if you have an Indigenous person, if you know someone, it's only one thing that, you can come and help them and support us. If we can keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and hopefully have it like over in Melbourne where they have thousands. We only have 500 people, but it's the maximum we're allowed to have. But if we can have more, I want more people.
Well, as an Egyptian, I feel like it means a lot to me because I see how the whole city is getting together and partaking in an event that creates a multicultural environment. And I feel like this event represents everyone because everyone gets together and you get to share your stories and your history and who you are and where you're from.
People coming together, sharing in the one theme, and just by walking together, it shows the action that we can take to progress reconciliation.
Absolutely. And that's why I do what I do, but I'm very honoured and grateful to have such a great team working behind me. So it's not about me, it's about Yakadanju and the whole working committee that we have. And I'm proud to say that the City of Bunbury has actually taken on the coordination of this walk as from right now as we stand here. So that's the goal. Yeah, well done. That's the goal, because like I was saying before, reconciliation shouldn't start with me. You know, it has to come from the non-Aboriginal community and bringing us all together. We didn't want to wait. So we started the process, and that's where we've gotten to, from 300 people, that was close to 2,000 people. 2,000 people. But like Max said on his interview there, we want more. You know, you look at Perth and you look at Sydney and Melbourne, they've got tens of thousands plus walking, and that's, you know, that's where we want to get to. I just want to finish off with a little poem, and it's called Acceptance and Inclusion. We walk this same land, yet different paths. Why not entwine our future with our past, to see our nation truly as one, accepting each other together under our sun? I stumble, you catch. You fall, I lift. This is how love works, and it's truly a gift. To stand side by side in our future endeavours. Some say we'll never see it. Not now, not ever. But I know, in fact, and I'm pretty sure, when we include and accept, we are opening the door. A door that's always been there, and inside so much strength and light. It's just we've never been brave enough to fight the good fight. So I think it's finally time to embrace all that each other has to give, to see the beauty and the wonder in each life that has lived, to learn from all, people old and young, to finally disassemble that marginalised gun. For the bullets that it's shot have deeply wounded many, but together we can carry the load that is heavy. So let's get ready to write a better tune in our country's soul. It's time to shine together. Let's not let it be too long. And that was written by my daughter, Cassie. So thank you. Enjoy the rest of the evening.
Thank you so much, Karen. Look, listen and learn. I think we can all take something for that, and taking those lessons with you is so important. And some other things I took from what you were saying was being yourself and being who you want to be, and being proud of that. And I think everyone needs to be proud of themselves. And certainly reconciliation does start with us all. But my big thing I took away from what you were saying there is you were the leader. You didn't wait for somebody else. You led the way, and you've created. Starts with one person, and you create a movement, and that's now happening here in Bunbury from your actions. So well done and congratulations on all you've achieved. Before we get to the next speaker, I did say I was an IT guy. I'm not an IT guy anymore. That wasn't my world. All right. Enough from the funny guy at the front. I'd now like to introduce our next speaker for tonight. Renee Bebington is going to talk to us, and would like to welcome her up to the stage. Renee, she makes her way. Yes. Renee is a not-for-profit leader with more than 17 years working in leadership and management roles. She's passionate about human rights, ethics and community development, and is committed to supporting individuals to develop professionally and to create incredible social projects. Renee has led the Milligan team in the co-creation and development of many successful community projects with an aim to reduce the negative impacts of social isolation to experiences of joy and collective action. That sounds like something that's hugely important. Welcome, Renee, and thanks for sharing your story.
Thank you. Hello. Ooh, I always feel really nervous at the start here. I'm just going to put a timer on so I don't start waffling. Oh, look, it already started. So I would like to acknowledge that I'm speaking to you all from the traditional lands of the Noongar people. At Milligan, we recognise the strength and resilience and capacity of the Aboriginal people of this land, and we hope to learn a lot from them. Now, I'm not an expert, but I am a storyteller, just like these guys before me, and just like all of you. When we take on the great honour of working with people and communities, we naturally become the custodians of the stories that are shared with us. Today I'm going to tell you a short version of a story about a transformative journey that the people of Bunbury took us on to create a healthier, happier and more connected, resilient community. So we go back to 2017 when we began questioning whether we were doing the best that we can. Could we do better? So we went on a journey, a mission to understand. We set up a pop-up community centre in the heart of the CBD. We opened our doors and we made and shared hundreds of cuppers, ran bunches of workshops and discussion groups, and just spent time with our community members. Those people sleeping rough, retirees, new migrants, young parents, the more youthful people, community leaders, service providers. We listened, we learnt, we aimed to better understand our community's needs and desires. And this is what we heard from people. We heard that people were lonely and disconnected, that people in Bunbury were feeling like there was no common place to come together, that there was no secular space for people to grow their communities, no place to be included and feel a sense of belonging. Stories of both physical and mental health downturn due to the loss of connection or support in their communities. Too many services, but not enough impact happening at the core. That feeling of isolation and disconnect. So we created a design question. How might we create opportunities for more accessible, inclusive spaces for community to connect? We put together we used a bunch of creative tools and we came up with a bunch of possible lean prototypes, secret suppers, lunchtime learnings, participatory art projects, repair cafes. Now what I'm about to show you is our shout. The pub choir concept, known to Bunburians as Our Shout, came from within the community. Although the idea isn't new, the Bunbury model was designed in response to community conversation. It was designed to be an accessible, inclusive activity that required low levels of commitment, no cost, no booking, no musical ability necessary. We tested the idea as a lean prototype in the form of social media post to measure the interest and interaction. The engagement was overwhelming and it was positive and it was widespread. So we had no choice but to live prototype, and here it is.
That's my
this was a clever little collaboration partnership with a local pub on a Wednesday night where usually there's 5 to 10 people in a bar. Once a month now, there's between 50 and 200 people of all walks of life belting out a classic pub tune together. So a year into this project, one of the regulars came to us and he said, "Can I tell you a story?" And of course we said, "Yes, please do." And he said, "It took me everything to come to this. I suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety and depression, and I love music. So I forced myself out of the door and I came along and I kept coming every month." And he said, "I used to come alone. Now I come with all of my friends." And there was a group of 10 of them. They come every month. And he said, "This is the best medicine for my mental health that I have ever taken." Through continuous feedback loops embedded in the process, our shack continues to evolve as we strive for new and better ways to increase positive social impact. Now, this next activity is called the Really, Really Free Market. I'm not going to talk about it. I'm going to show you. It speaks for itself.
The Really, Really Free Market is a fun, free community event that we hold here at Milligan every month on the 4th Saturday of the month, where people can come and bring whatever they like and they can take away whatever they need.
I found a nice blue cardigan, my favourite colour's blue, and some little pots, little plants for my little courtyard garden.
Herbs harvested from the garden, books that they've read and they don't need anymore, clothes, there's lots of kids' stuff. It's things that you know have more life in them. They can keep going. They don't need to go to landfill or get tossed out. We've been donated things to cook, then we'll cook up some dal or some soup or some stew. So just something for people to have, give them a smile while they're here.
I guess it's just a very friendly get-together and, yeah.
I like talking to the people who arrive for the first time because they have no idea and they don't quite understand and they're always so surprised when I say, yes, it's really, really free. You can take whatever you like.
I'd come again for sure. Absolutely.
And last one, Humankind. This is a beautiful empathy building project we ran in partnership with Bunbury Fringe.
Hey you look wonderful. I think you're absolutely amazing. Keep going.
So this is Humankind. It's a pop-up art installation where people sit down on the couch, pop some headphones on, and they listen to compliments and gratitudes from strangers around Bunbury that have been collected.
My partner is the most amazing mother that I could wish to co-parent with, and she's amazing, and I am thankful for her every day.
I think you're great.
The idea is that you walk away with your heart full of kindness and gratitude, and that flows out throughout your day.
I'm grateful for my family. They all live up in Perth, so I miss them a lot.
I am very much in love with the two beautiful children that make me who I am and give me more love than anybody else can.
The impact that it's having on people after they've listened for the 10 minutes has been incredible, more than we ever imagined what it was going to be. People are just
Positive, emotional.
Really emotional, really quiet. They're sharing some really beautiful stories with us, some real raw feelings, and it's just bring that human connectedness back to
basic,
I guess, yeah,
back to basic kindness.
Thank you for being lovable.
At the moment, with a lot of tragic news happening around Australia and the world, this is just bringing it back to, like Sonia said, basic human kindness. And I think we all have it and we all need it, but I think it's really lovely to be reminded every now and again that to just focus on what's important and be grateful for the important things in your life and the important people in your lives.
It's a love message for Bunbury, this beautiful, peaceful, perfect place that we're fortunate enough to live in.
We found that really interesting, that people found the place they live to be the place, to be the thing that they wanted to talk about, the thing that they wanted to say that they were grateful for, and it was really beautiful. We were kind of like, oh wow, we didn't expect anyone to pick a physical place where they live.
I would just like to say that I'm grateful and thankful for all the great friends that I have that stand by me when I'm not feeling well and are there to rejoice when I am.
Always about the kindness.
Yeah, we're always wanting
Caring is cool.
promote these. And she's moved on from the giving and receiving. It's kindness is cool. Yes.
I wish everyone has a nice day. To every family, I wish they have loveliness, and I wish they be really good to them, to other people, even if they don't know them.
That one always chokes me up every time I watch it. So we learnt a lot, often from making mistakes, but I'm going to share with you some key learnings from the team. Challenge your assumptions. Understanding your biases is essential in designing accessible, inclusive activities. It's a great team exercise to list all assumptions that you have or that could be made about what you are designing for or who you're designing for, and then challenge them. Lean prototype. Test your designs fast and with low resource, and don't expect perfection. It's a myth. We tested our shout by creating the social media post, and that's how we knew that this was going to fly in our town. All feedback is good feedback. When people want to tell you what they think or how your activity or product impacted them, this is the gold, even when they need to tell you how crappy it is. Brace yourself for that one. Question everything and listen deeply. Try not to fall into the pattern of that's how we've always done it, or it is what it is. The word why is your friend. Use it often. And have fun. Joy is contagious. If you want to talk with us, this cool crew over here is our Milligan crew. They'll be hanging out for a while, so come and have a chat. Otherwise, you can join us on socials or check out our website, www.milligan.org.au. Shameless plug of our newest creation, Yellow in Dalyella. Join us on socials or come and visit us. Oh, back. So we live by this. Do the best you can until you know better. Then when you know better, do better. Thank you so much for letting us share this precious time with you. I believe that together we can create and improve spaces and activities where people can turn up with confidence as their unique and perfectly imperfect selves. And I'm looking forward to doing it with you.
Thank you so much, Renee, for sharing all that. You are a good storyteller, and stories are powerful. It's how we can all get our message across and make it resonate with our wider community. And I like the thing when you open your doors. Again, a bit like Karen, you're listening and we're listening and learning all the time to get better. The thing that I liked the most was that story of the man. That must make you individually and as a team so proud of what you've achieved, and that's just one story, and I'm sure there's hundreds more. That it's quite amazing what's happening just from within community in Bunbury, and I'm really glad you shared all that with us, because every single project you're obviously doing, it was all about bringing your community together and that sense of belonging which we all crave. We'll move on, and it gives me great pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Shamara Williams, as Shamara makes her way up here. Now, before I had even met Shamara tonight, I was flicking through the slideshow, and the first thing that struck me about her was her infectious smile. And I said that when I introduced myself today. Shamara is passionate about connecting people to community, be that through her role as a manager of Volunteers Southwest, or when she's enjoying some downtime by giving back as a volunteer in the community herself. Shamara has lived in and worked in Greater Bunbury for 30 years, sharing her time and skills with a variety of organisations and community groups, especially the Bunbury Multicultural group, of which she's currently Vice Chair. Shamara can personally attest that volunteering is a socially inclusive activity, not only helping to make lifelong friendships and expand professional networks, but more importantly, building a sense of belonging. Welcome, Shamara.
Thanks a lot, Rob. Thank you for having me. As a migrant, it's really important for me to first acknowledge my privilege of living on Noongar Boodja and to pay my respects to the traditional custodians of this land, the Wadandi Noongar people, and elders past, present and emerging. And for those of you in this room, thank you. Social inclusion, by its very definition, it's about people being able to participate in society. It's about creating opportunities for everyone to belong. I should really get this, shouldn't I? As the word says up there, belong, I think that it's something that I'm really passionate about, that entire concept of belonging, of feeling like you have a place, like you have a home, a family. And so I love connecting people to their community. I'm also passionate about the power of stories, and we've heard so many great ones today already, because stories allow us to share ourselves with others, to find out that we are more similar than different. And stories, when shared, can allow us to effect real, lasting change in our community, which is one of the reasons I said yes to doing this today, because I think that everyone should take every opportunity to share their stories. Rob's already talked about my two main roles, I guess, in this community, and both my roles assist with engaging individuals with their community and promoting a culture that is that fosters relationships and builds connectedness. So just to paint the picture, has that been flicking behind me the entire time? What did I do? Oh no! All the secrets are. There's a slide missing. Oh goodness. Oh, I think I'm going back. Okay, sorry. I see what I'm doing. Technology. Oh, there is a slide missing. That's a shame. I had photos of myself, but they're not there, so I feel weird now talking about myself. But anyway, just to kind of paint a bit of background, I grew up in Sri Lanka, and my stable world there, by the time I was a teenager, was increasingly unstable politically. And even though my little teenage circle of security was stable, it shifted dramatically on its axis when we uprooted and migrated to Western Australia. So I arrived in Perth with my family in February 1988 as a fresh-faced 19-year-old, so you can guess how old I am. And I went straight into Murdoch which was a real culture shock, going from a very conservative third world country to Murdoch University, poles apart. And I was thinking the other day that it's an incredibly brave decision that all migrants make, to leave behind the familiar and move across the world for a brighter future, for the chance of a better life, usually for their children. We felt really lucky that we spoke English. We thought it would be an advantage, but it wasn't. And I guess every time that someone showed me that they didn't understand me or went out of their way to point out that I was different or that I didn't belong, a small piece of my confidence got chipped away. And every time I felt left out of a clique or a group, it just kind of reinforced that I had to work harder to fit in, to assimilate. That's what we were told we had to do, is to assimilate and to blend in. And that's a very dangerous thing to do, because this dilutes who we are and it forces us to try to be what we aren't. I couldn't change how I looked, because who I am shows on my skin, it's stamped on my features, and it'll always make me different. But I love that now, because I love to stand out. I'm standing here, but not so much back then. Oh, yeah, still no pictures. And then I met this gorgeous man. There's a photo of my lovely husband who was sitting next to me. I ended up marrying him and got uprooted again from Perth all the way to down here, which was different again, because every time I walked down the streets of Bunbury, it was very rare that I saw someone that looked like me. Can I have a glass of water, please? So everyone tended to stare when we were together, a very tall white boy with a short brown girl, and it added to the feelings, oh, here he is, it added to the feelings of not being... It added to the feeling of not being, I guess, a part of the way things should look. Anyway, long story short, we had 2 beautiful boys, and 30 years later, they've added 2 gorgeous young women into our family. And about 5 years ago, I suddenly realised that I had, without being aware, put down roots, and I was firmly embedded in this community. I knew a few people, and they knew me, and I felt accepted for who I was. I had made connections. I'd made some really great friendships, and I finally felt like I belonged. I felt confident of my place without feeling the need to change who I was. Now it should work. So this quote that I came across a few years ago, it says, accessibility is being able to get in the building, diversity is getting invited to the table, inclusion is having a voice at the table, belonging is having your voice heard. For me as a migrant, that first way I started belonging and having people hear my voice was through getting involved in volunteering. So I started first at my children's school canteen, helping out in their classrooms, and this slowly helped me to meet other people in my community and start building those connections. And so my love of volunteering began, and over the years I've dragged my hubby and kids into it as well. This photo has photos from over the years of the Bunbury Multicultural group. A huge part of my volunteer work over the last 18 years has gone into assisting with events and activities of this group. And it's a purely volunteer-driven organisation and has been around in this format since about 1991. And at the moment, the management committee is made up of 11 different nationalities. So we're very, very proud. We That's the next slide. We also represent and advocate for, when we're asked to, for different multicultural community groups. But whatever we do, I guess, other than for celebrating and allowing people to share their culture, what we mostly do is always about promoting community harmony. And I will talk a little bit about the projects that we do later. I just want to first touch on Volunteer Southwest. I don't trust my slides now, so sorry, I have to keep looking back. As previously mentioned, I manage Volunteer Southwest, and that's a volunteer resource centre that has been around since 1996. And Volunteer Southwest also connects people to community, so it's a really nice kind of a cross mix that I work in, and I feel really privileged to do this. And we do this by assisting not-for-profit groups in the region to recruit volunteers. We build their capacity through training and so forth. And the main reason why we support them is to make sure that volunteers get a really positive volunteering experience, that they enjoy what they do, that what they do is meaningful, so that they continue to volunteer, because that's what really is the aim, I think, personally. And as you can see by the photo, we have a lot of fun along the way. And the last census in 2016 found, and I don't know if any of you have heard this, that if someone had volunteered in the previous 12 months, they're more likely to be involved in other aspects of community life than someone who hadn't recently volunteered. Can I see a show of hands of people who volunteer in the room? Oh, makes my heart so warm. That's just beautiful. Because really what I believe we need to do is to give people the opportunity to participate. And then I think you have a volunteer for life. If you haven't attended the Southwest Multicultural Festival, so I'm going back to the activities of the Bunbury Multicultural Group. If you haven't attended the festival, you're missing out. So for everyone here, put it in your diaries, 19th of February next year, and we'd love to see you all there. So this is the largest multicultural festival in the Southwest region. It's vibrant, it's colourful, and it's this wonderful way to recognise the diverse cultural groups in our community. And this year, we had 45 nationalities represented, maybe more, we don't know. We only counted the 45, in performances, activities, food stalls, and in the beautiful flag parade that opens the festival. And it's grown from this tiny little event in 2007 to a 6-hour festival that now attracts thousands of people. And, you know, sharing culture with a responsive audience is so important for culturally diverse people, because you're able to say, look at me, this is who I really am. You know, maybe not the person that sits next to you at work or whatever. So it's one of those beautiful events, and we're really privileged to have a number of sponsors for this festival and our smaller projects, and one of those is the City of Bunbury. These slides are really weird. This Is Me is one of my favourite projects, because I believe that there's so much power in speaking and sharing our stories. So people share at a venue with a group of people listening. It brings us together. We find common ground. Stories break down assumptions and changes and challenges perspectives. And stories build understanding. So with this project, the Bunbury Multicultural Group seeks to dispel stereotypes, because, let's be honest, we're a very complex, multi-layered human beings that have a number of facets. So when we listen to each other's stories, we find similarities and we focus on the positives rather than seeing the differences. Dine With Me brings people together around a very important social and cultural component, which is food. So people bring a dish of food to share, and conversations are started and new networks and friendships are created. And I believe that you learn and grow so much from just talking to people and sharing experiences. And then there's the project Driving to Make a Difference. This is specifically offered to culturally and linguistically diverse women, free driving lessons and the chance to get their driving license. Because we all take driving for granted, right? So we don't really realise the impact that it has on us if we can't drive, because we can't basically get from A to B without it being a challenge. So this project not only seeks to reduce isolation caused by the lack of accessible transportation and increase women's self-reliance and self-confidence, but it also provides an opportunity for these women to belong. Because when they can drive themselves, suddenly they have choices. All of a sudden they have the opportunity to get involved in their community and build those networks and make those connections. I believe that the need to belong is at the very core of every human being, and is even more so for people who have moved here from another part of the world, or even from another part of Australia, or the next town even, because not having your usual support systems makes it even more important that you become part of the community. When we're inclusive as a community and embrace every person for who they are, so not just as a generalisation of race or religion or culture or economic status or ability, we become a stronger and more vibrant community. And people who connect with community groups such as the Bunbury Multicultural Group, people who volunteer, who participate in events, they tell us at Volunteer Southwest that they feel connected, that they have found their place, that they've found a family even. And I mean, how you can't belong more than when you find a family. So I just find that such a beautiful concept. So that's my face. I was very privileged to be part of, what would you call it, the backdrop for the stage for the Multicultural Festival. And so as you can hear, I'm deeply passionate about the importance of connections that people build within their community. For me, volunteering is more than giving my time for the common good. It's all about connecting. It's about assisting not-for-profit organisations to continue to do the amazing work that they do. And 20 plus years of volunteering has proved to me personally that this is a really simple but important way of building connections, especially when you have none to start with. And then these connections, can build friendships and belonging. I've also learned a little secret that those of us who volunteer know, that you get more back from volunteering than what you put in. You can see a lot of nods in the room. I also believe that it's so important for us all to share our stories, because that helps to change those perceptions and perspectives, and it can change an entire culture of a community. So what I want to leave with you today is that if you aren't already doing it, get involved with your community. Be willing to share your story with other people. Listen very closely to the stories that they share. Find those similarities. Attend and participate in activities and events that are held in your community, because these are some of the ways to help light the way forward for ourselves and others to connect and ultimately to belong. Thank you.
Thank you, Shamara. I would have been happy to leave your smiling face up there, but that wouldn't be fair on our next speaker. And I couldn't agree with you more. You mentioned there that with volunteering you get so much more back than you can ever give. I can say that personally for my own life, and I'm sure there's most others that have ever done that would say exactly the same. And within your Multicultural Festival, bringing people together and just sharing together and being proud of who we are is something we should all strive for. Embracing each other, we all become stronger. And I think that's a really strong message we can take away with us. So thank you for sharing that with us. And it's been a pleasure to have you and see your smiling face in person. So we move on to our last speaker tonight. And we've certainly heard from some wonderful speakers so far. And our final speaker also has a great story to share. It's a pleasure to welcome Ben Aldridge to the stage. As Ben makes his way up, he's been many things in life. A soldier, troublemaker, explorer, as well as a poor decision maker, apparently. Currently, he's a husband. Hopefully that continues, Ben. A father, a business owner, quadriplegic, and a person living with mental illness. He's founder and managing director of 30 Foot Drop, and Ben is a dedicated, systematic advocate and innovator in the disability space. He was recently recognised as one of WA's top 40 leading entrepreneurs, innovators, and business leaders under the age of 40. Welcome, Ben Aldridge. Would you like to stand?
Okay. Thank you all for being here tonight. It's amazing. I'd like to start off by acknowledging the Wadandi people as traditional owners of country. I will need the clicker. As the traditional owners of the land upon which we meet today, and pay my respect to the elders past, present and emerging, and continuing to learn from the ongoing relationship these custodians have for their land. I absolutely love evenings like this. The opportunities to hear from such a diverse range of people and gain the insights that just leave you in awe, especially with what's happening. And the whole theme of lighting the way forward is so apt with what we've heard tonight. Hopefully this trend continues as I introduce myself and 30 Foot Drop, what moral obligation is and how we're moving towards a new way of disability advocacy. So let's start with 30 Foot Drop. We're a business that specialises in systemic advocacy, innovation and education in relation to disability. To put it simply, we look at the ways systems and industries interact with people like myself and how those systems can either be changed or in some cases scrapped and completely started again. These systems can be anything. We've helped local governments re-engage their disability community after decades of neglect. We've designed and facilitated education packages and so much more. My name's Ben. I am the founder and managing director of 30 Foot Drop, and as was said in the introduction, I have been many, many things throughout my life. Some planned and others, like this chair, not quite so much planned, but just as important. As was said, I've served in the army overseas. Definitely have been and continue to be a troublemaker. I doubt that will ever stop. I'm an adventurer with a love of pushing the limits and being a bad decision maker. Lately, though, my decision making has become better and hopefully continues to, as I am also a husband, a father, and recognised as a leader in the disability space. So what makes 30 Foot Drop different to other disability advocacy groups out there? To explain this, I need to go back to 2017. This is 10 years after my accident, and I was getting really frustrated at society's ignorance around disability. I was driving home, fuming about the treatment I had received at mechanics, when I had this flash of clarity. You see, my upbringing was fairly normal. Single mum, a few different schools, year 12 graduation, entry-level job. And yet at the age of 22, when I had my accident, I knew nothing about disability. And upon reflection, this ignorance probably would have continued had I not acquired my disability. How could this be? There was, and still is, hundreds of advocacy groups who are trying to educate society about the realities of disability. Despite their efforts, ignorance persists. Why was this? Why wasn't it working? There's got to be something wrong here. This question, this why, became an obsession, an itch that I needed to scratch. And scratch I did, until I developed a theory, one that has become the basis of everything we do at 30 Foot Drop. My theory was this: in order to change the way society interacts with disability, we need to evolve the conversation. And it needs to evolve from moral obligation to economic imperative. So, moral obligation. It's defined as a duty which one owes and which he ought to perform, but which he is not legally bound to fulfil. To put it in simple terms and take it away from Cambridge English dictionaries, it's the things that it's when people choose to do something because it's the right thing to do, and not because they're bound to do it legally. Now, this is often associated with charities and the act of giving without any thought of getting anything in return. To put it simply, most education was focused on the idea that in order that we make changes or do extra for disabled folk because it's the right thing to do. Can you see the problem with this? Both government and businesses, with their decision makers, have tons of competing priorities. Financial, capacity, physical, these all take priority, especially if disability is seen as not giving any meaningful business return. And if that's the case, then it will always be last, because moral obligation doesn't pay the bills. What we need to do is to move this mindset towards economic imperative. Economic imperative is a collection of principles that guides organisations' ethics and practices to maximise revenue and profit. To put it simply, we need to show them that the return on investment of great disability inclusion is a net positive. By doing the right thing, you make more money. And by working with businesses to modify their practices and proving that it is good for the bottom line, we can create a culture where it becomes standard practice for any business to be inclusive if they want to remain competitive within their markets. That's the goal. That inclusive practices aren't the exception. They're the rule. That's the goal. But, like all goals, there is a long way to go. So how are we going to get there? First, I want to acknowledge that there is no silver bullet answer. That is, I cannot point to one singular solution that will miraculously change everything with disability inclusion, which, of course, in turn means that this will all take time. But as a business, we are dedicated to being the butterfly whose wings start the tornado. We also acknowledge that these changes need to be done at all levels of society, from the disability community, across industries, all levels of government and community organisations. These shifts need to be done everywhere. So how are we actually doing it? Well, first, before we can change the world, we must first make sure that we practice what we preach. And our internal policies recognise this. We are a for-profit business who is 100% staffed by people with disabilities and practices the changes that we offer. 30 Foot Drop has become an example of what inclusive businesses can achieve. Next, we harness the power of storytelling, which is a skill as old as time that has a place in every culture and society. And this is because stories are a universal language that everyone, regardless of dialect, hometown, heritage, diversity of any sort, we can all understand. Stories stimulate imagination and passion. They create a sense of community amongst listeners. Stories help solidify abstract concepts and simplify complex messages. Using storytelling, I can take an abstract experience, like being patted on the head like a dog by a complete stranger, and use it to create a commonality, a shared emotion amongst my audience. So those are our internal practices: storytelling and leading the way. The ones that we make sure we're able to create change and put us at the forefront of what we do. As I mentioned before, there's a lot to do, and part of the challenge that we actually face as a business is deciding where to focus our efforts. We can only be in so many places at one time. We currently have 4 main areas of focus. Our first area is leadership development. When we started on this journey, it rapidly became apparent that we cannot do this alone. We need more leaders with disability to spread the load. Earlier this year, we launched our leadership development course, Empowered Leadership, which is the first of its kind. It's developed for people with disability, by people with disability, and it's had amazing results. In fact, we actually have 3 of the graduates here tonight. Thank you so much, you guys, for coming. It's amazing. And by developing more community champions, we could all work together to create the changes that are needed. Our second focus is on educating businesses and organisations of the return on investment in disability inclusion. But more than just throwing facts and figures at them, we work with businesses to create a practical way forward with integrated programs that take into account their whole business and the available supports to create an individualised package for maximum effect. Our third focus is on systemic advocacy, where we work together with larger organisations or government departments to develop engagement or participation models that interact seamlessly with existing systems, whilst better serving the diverse needs of the disability community. And our final focus is on innovation, an ever-shifting and exciting part of working in the disability community. We work hard to look towards the future and develop products that will be in demand as the changes of today take effect. Our current focus is on accessible tourism and creating Australia's first ever accessible tourism hotspot, right here in the southwest. I won't go into detail, but it is a big project and very, very exciting. The truth is that if you get me talking about it now, as my wife knows, I will talk about it for hours on end. But that is 30-foot drop and the change we're making in the disability space. If you found this interesting and you want to know more, find us on social media. We're on all the major platforms, and I really hope you guys have enjoyed tonight as much as I have. Thank you very much to Inclusion Solutions and all the sponsors.
Thank you, Ben. But it's very obvious that you're such a driven individual and you're making a lot of positive change for so many, and congratulations for everything you've achieved so far, and I'm sure there's a lot more to come, so well done on that. I like the comment you said that your goal is that inclusion becomes the norm, just what we do. And we may not be there yet, but together we can all continue to make a difference in achieving that outcome. I love the idea of developing programs by people with disability, for people with disability. Instead of being told this is what you need, it's like, what do I want? And being asked. So that's a really fantastic thing. As you've probably guessed, the last slide, we've come towards the end of tonight's presentations. A big thank you to everyone that's come up here and shared their stories. They've just been inspiring, and there's fantastic to see so much going on in the city of Bunbury, and and obviously our guys from Perth as well, the boys. It was great to hear from. Basically, to me, it's ordinary people can and do extraordinary things, and you're all making our world that little bit better. Before we wrap up for networking and a drink or two, we hope you will be able to stick around with us. On your table, there's lots of bits of paper, but one thing you'll find, hopefully, is a thing called a commitment postcard. Now, when we began tonight, my hope was that everyone would take at least one thing away that we'd seek to uphold in our day-to-day lives going forward. So, I'm going to ask you, if you take a moment, put pen to paper with your one personal commitment to inclusion. At the back of the room, there's a box, so when you do make your way to the bar or home, if you could drop it in that. And in 6 months' time, we'll post those back to you, and you can just reflect how things are going. So if you could take a moment to do that. There's also some feedback forms if you get a chance to fill those in. We certainly can improve, get a new IT guy. And tomorrow is International Day of People with Disability, which hopefully you've all got things planned. I just want to give a shout out. There's the Cantoni Cup. It's an inclusion weekend at Hay Park kicking off tomorrow at 4:30 p.m. On your tables there's a further flyer, Inclusion Football Carnival, and celebrating people with disability. So that's going all weekend. So please get involved down there if you can. Again, a big thank you to our sponsors and supporters, Lottery West, Evolve Wealth Management, and again, City of Bunbury. Thanks to all the Inclusion Solutions staff who worked previously. They left Perth early this morning. Particular shout out to Laura. She's done a wonderful job getting everything organised, so well done and thank you, Laura. To everyone else behind the scenes, Jurgen, Bianca on photography, Lorraine and Max from the City of Bunbury that have done so much. And a big shout out to Nick and Luke online. Hopefully you can hear us, guys. Sorry that we didn't switch screens. I know that was a bit of a hassle early on, but your talents have been greatly appreciated. Please stay, mingle, have a chat, get a few photos, and if you do, tag us into your social media at Inclusion Solutions WA. And remember, your actions, big and small, is what's helping drive positive change in our community. Good night, thank you very much, and it's been a pleasure to be with you.